And he goes, what we're holding on with dear life, just like the monkey was holding on to the nut, could also be the thing that's leading to our own demise. Sometimes we have to have the courage and the fortitude to simply let go and adapt and adjust so we can live to fight another day.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
Hey guys, gals, and freaky pals, gather around and listen to the Now Sounds coming live right here from Laguna Beach. We're spinning the platters the matter with all that talk and chitter chatter. Here's Ben.
Perfect. All right, well, we are live back in our I Own It studios, and we have an incredible guest today. He is that's right, he's a speaker, an author, an entrepreneur, a mentor, you name it. And he's very unique as well. He's got great ideas, and he's got wonderful groups that you can join that have tremendous networking. So Greg Reid, thank you for coming up to Laguna Beach and being in our studios with us. Such a pleasure.
Absolutely. And you forgot the best part, that I'm probably the least qualified guy to do what I do. So just so you know, it's the old thing. If I can do it, you can do it too.
That's right. Well, that will inspire all our listeners. So let's talk about Secret Knock. It's an invite-only networking event. I'm going to be attending it. As we kick off our conversation, explain to our listeners what exactly is Secret Knock.
Well, for those of you who are new to my work, first of all, don't feel bad if you've never heard about me. I'm not very popular at home either. I'm just a regular cat here, but I write books. I've been publishing 142 books, 45 languages, just got a star on the Walk of Fame. Yet I'm dyslexic, can't spell very good, can't read very well. If you play me words with friends, you'll win every single time. And I've been very fortunate to be published so much. And I interviewed the most amazing thought leaders from around the globe. And people kept asking, how can I meet your new friends? And so I started an event in my living room with 12 people, and they went and told other people, and it took off and become a juggernaut, which it is today. In fact, we've made the Forbes Inc. Entrepreneur's Top 10 list of the greatest events you cannot attend unless, of course, you're invited.
Oh, that's fabulous. Why is it? Well, first of all, how did it start? Like, it started from people saying, "How do I meet all these people?" But what was the genesis of it?
Well, it's interesting. I did my first major best-selling book. It's called Think and Grow Rich: 3 Feet from Gold, where I interviewed everyone from the founder of Chick-fil-A to the guys who started NASCAR, from Miss America to Mrs. Fields Cookies. And I invited over 360 people to come, and no one showed. And when I would go on stage and say, I invited everyone, no one would come. Everyone said, I'd go. I said, well, let's test that. So I did it in my living room. 12 people actually showed up. And afterwards, people went and told their friends and told their friends, and it grew exponentially. We've never even ran an ad. You remember the show Seinfeld?
Uh-huh.
George Costanza does an episode called The Opposite Day. Mm-hmm. And I go, how could I do an event George Costanza Opposite Day? So instead of the typical flyer where you have the little circles with a picture of a talking head, what you're going to learn, I said, we'll do an event where we charge a lot of money and we will not tell them where it is or who will be there. Right? Just the city, state, and date. And we've been selling out for 17 years in a row, standing room only. Isn't that wild?
What's so valuable about attending? Like, I'm going in March and it's coming up. What for your audience?
Let me ask this: what do you know about it?
I don't know much. I just know the city it's in, and
that's it.
And that's it.
That's it.
And I'm going in blind.
And
just like I went into your other group that we'll talk about, I went in blind.
And that's what we did. We created the most unique experience you can imagine. Because here's what we do differently. And by the way, but there's social proof, and you've talked to other people who now testify that it's cool. That's what gave you the comfort to come. But you had to start somewhere, right?
Right.
And so what we do is, there's no coaches, there's no teachers, there's no mentors. We only bring in the people that are accomplishing what everyone else is talking about. All these fake Instagram gurus that are talking about how cool it is to have a Lamborghini, we bring in Mr. Lamborghini. So if you want to start a clothing line, here's the founder of Ugg Boots. If you want to start a board game, here's the guy who did Pictionary. If you got a nonprofit, here's the person who started Make-A-Wish. If you surround yourself with people that are actually accomplishing what everyone else is talking about, your life will never be the same. And that's what we do.
What kind of people attend the event in the audience?
That's my favorite part. It's not about the speakers, by the way. It is about the networking and the folks that join us. Here's another thing that's different. We only have one rule for our events. Be cool. That's it. And that means if the water runs out on the table, you don't cry and complain. You get off your tail, you go get water, and you bring it back to the table. Be normal. If trash is on the floor, pick it up. It's not your mom's house. There's no name tags. Everyone's treated the same. So when you're sitting around the table, you don't even know really who's there until finally I say, hey, coming to the stage is the guy who started North Face. And he sits right next to you. He's come up on the stage. You go, I had no idea. And that's what it's all about.
That's great. So I'm interested in your advice for how entrepreneurs should approach networking. Networking is so important in business and life to get ahead. Most entrepreneurs are extremely busy and their time is valuable, as you know. And networking can also be a time sink, as we know. And what sort of advice do you give to ambitious, successful people when they ask you how should they approach networking?
Now, have you already heard my answer on this, by the way?
No, I have
I feel
not.
like you're setting me up on a T-ball.
I'm giving you a softball, but I know you're big into networking.
Oh my gosh! Well, this is one of my favorite things because I believe it's all specificity. I'm again dyslexic, not even sure if I said that right, but you get it. Be specific. And so what I do is I reach out to people this exact way. Here's my tip: if I want to talk to the guy who started NASCAR, I'm going to say, Mike, I need 12.5 minutes of your time. It's always the same. I said, I'll cover all my own expenses to come see you. From the moment I open the door till the time I leave, I'll start a stopwatch. It'll be 12.5 minutes. I'm going to ask you one simple question, X, Y, Z. The chance of him coming from his office down to the break room to do that is so high. But other people go, hey, I want to pick your brain. That sounds painful. It says, I want to take you to lunch. I want to take you to dinner on a bike. They don't want to have that time. But if you can be specific with that 12.5 minutes, all the doors start suddenly opening. Same thing. If I'm on stage and there's 10,000 people, afterwards they want to take a picture and get a book autographed. It's awesome. And they say the kindest things. How can I work with you? How can I be of contribution? How can I be of service? I don't have 30 minutes for a resume check. Compare that to someone who comes up and says, Greg, loved your talk. By the way, I saw your Instagram. You got a couple million followers. I make really cool Instagram memes. Let me send you one. If you like it, maybe you'll use me. 8 seconds, I know who you are, what you do. You got my phone number. We're in contact. That is the modern world of networking.
What's the one question you asked to say you were in the office with the head of NASCAR?
Well, that one was why you didn't give up before the miracle happened. Why you didn't quit 3 feet from gold when I was working on that project. Or I'd sit there and say, what does the word stickability mean to you? In fact, one of my favorite people I interviewed, his guy named Marty Cooper, he invented the cell phone. I saw him on 60 Minutes. 3 days later, I'm in his office, and I go, Marty, what does stickability mean to you? And he said, stickability has to be parallel with flexibility. You have to be willing to adapt and adjust. He says, if you don't adapt, you'll get stuck. And then he told that story about the spider monkey. He said, it's so quick and nimble in the rainforest, you can't harpoon it, catch it. It's too wiry. But one hunter figured it out. He took a heavy log, drilled a hole, dropped a peanut, left it at the base of the jungle. The monkey would smell that nut. Come down from the treetop, reach his hand in, grab a hold of the nut, and his fist becomes so big, he can't pull it out of the log and become anchored to that spot. All he's got to do is let go, but he holds on with dear life, think that that nut is nutrition. It's saving him. The hunter comes by an hour later, captures this elusive spider monkey. And he said, the moral is, are we holding on to our own nut in life? But it could be in the form of a job or a deal or a relationship or fear or guilt, the past. And he goes, what we're holding on with dear life, just like the monkey was holding on to the nut, could also be the thing that's leading to our own demise. Sometimes we have to have the courage and the fortitude to simply let go and adapt and adjust so we can live to fight another day.
Wow, that's great advice. What a great story that is.
It's amazing. So to answer your question, that's what it comes down to. So I asked him one question. What does stickability mean to you? There's his answer. Mic drop. 6 minutes. I'm out the door. Isn't that great?
And how did you get connected to him? What was the secret to build?
Yeah, this is the part that's really complicated. I reached out.
Okay.
That's it. I don't have a formula.
Okay.
It's something called Google. Don't tell anyone about it, right?
Maybe picking up the phone.
Yeah, that's all I do. I literally, what I would do is I would get on an airplane, go interview someone. On the way back, you'd have the Sky Malls and all the different magazines, and I'd open it up, and like one guy go, "Oh, this is the guy who invented string theory." Like Sheldon's trying to figure it out in Big Bang Theory. So I would just go, "Oh, this guy, John Schwartz." I Google him, look him up, say, hey, I'm working on a project. I need 12.5 minutes of your time. I'm going to ask you one simple question, X, Y, Z. Here's the understanding. The most successful people are the most available people.
That's a
The
great
most
comment.
successful people are the most available. If you're brand new, happy-go-lucky, you're fresh, you're cool. Top of the field, happy-go-lucky, you got nothing to prove. In the middle, pain in the neck. You're filled with ego. You're edging God out. You're finding your own voice. Literally, when we were kids, we'd say, don't cut the line. As an adult, cut the line.
Right.
Right? That's
Right.
the idea. When I wanted to become a best-selling author, I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought every best-selling book and said, how did you do it? I didn't go to best written authors. I didn't go to other people, wannabes. I went right to the source because they're the ones that can give me the system I could duplicate. Here we are today.
Oh, it's brilliant. So let's talk about Prosperity Camp.
Oh,
just got back from there. Wonderful event. It's with smaller groups of business leaders like myself. I like the line at the top of the website, which I've never told you this. I'll read it to you. In a world filled with gurus and self-help programs telling us how we should live our lives and what we should do, rarely do we get the answers on how to accomplish it. So let's talk about Prosperity Camp. I just got back. Tell everyone like what you focus on and the how and what really goes on and what it means to you to run a Prosperity Camp.
So that one's held in my private estate, and it's limited to about 50, 60 people, as you saw, where Secret Knock is more of a mainstream large thing. So, for example, Secret Knock, I call it cotton candy. It's fast, It's furious, it's great, but it's not very filling, but it's amazing entertainment. Where Prosperity Camp's more nuts and bolts and the meats and potatoes, where we go, look, this is how it really works. So, for example, the time before the one you just came, we talked about Bitcoin mining. So we brought in someone from China with a Bitcoin mining machine hooked up to a computer and showed everyone in real time exactly how it's done. If you want to talk about the metaverse, we bring in a kid who's building for the metaverse so you can see exactly how to go buy property and to build. This last time we talked about, the chat bots and things of this nature, but showed exactly step by step how to do it. To us, it's less about the, go believe in your dreams and go do it. Well, how do you do it? What are the building blocks? And from there, again, we can duplicate the process and do it for ourselves.
So that way, when people leave there, they can implement what you're teaching them.
Do you know how many people? Did you do any of it? Did you?
Yeah, I signed up for OpenAI, started playing with it. I still need to learn. I got to go on a learning curve. It's not as easy as it looks, but once you learn and you could start programming it, it seems like it'll be amazing.
Oh yeah, that Chat GPT is just it's incredible. And so, for example, but you saw it in real time, right? So we asked it questions, and I stay up at night and ask these robots questions like, "Hey, are you real? Are you coming to get us? You ever been happy? You been in love?" And it's really interesting when you start talking to these robots. Some of the answers. On the same note, I'm going to give you a great example. So for our upcoming event, I have to do these introductions, kind of like what you're going to do for me, where it says, coming to the stage is so-and-so. And I go, man, that's a tedious process. So what I did is I just started programming in ChatGPT and it said, do a stage introduction for person X. And they did it magically.
Really?
So now I'm cutting and pasting those, giving them to my video person who will do a voiceover and do all the video to it. But now I don't have to write any of them. Isn't that great?
That's amazing. It's
well, who's going to know someone better, me or the internet, right?
No, they're not going to know.
It's
That's
amazing.
Brilliant. So you describe yourself as a master storyteller, which I've heard you tell a lot of great stories, and we'll talk on a few of them. Are you able to translate complicated ideas into simple, digestible concepts? So when you're working with ambitious entrepreneurs, okay, what sort of ideas do they often have that often are the hardest to understand for them? So I guess what I'm trying to ask you is what stories tend to resonate most with them and be most helpful for them?
I'm going to give you a little tip. I know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
So again, I'm a public speaker. Okay?
Sure.
I've been spoken from the Pentagon to the generals all the way down to the United Nations General Assembly floor. And I'll give you my secret. I tell stories. I call them songs, and we're in a studio right now, so you'll understand this. So basically, a song is usually 2.5 minutes from beginning to end. There's a beginning, a middle, it's got a little hook, a melody, and a closing. Well, that's what I do with my stories. So I don't focus on a 90-minute presentation. I focus on one song at a time, and I master that song. So what happens is that I get one song and then another song, and I put it together, and I got an album. So someone says, hey, you have an hour to speak. where behind you got 12 minutes, no problem. I'll do my 3 greatest hits. Piece of cake, right? And that's how I do my public speaking. I focus on these little individual sound bites, so they're so awesome, so I always have something to say. And also by doing that, you can now ask me any question. It doesn't make a difference. Give me a topic, and I will have a story for you. Go ahead.
So
put me on the spot.
Well, I got a couple that I want you to tell because I thought they were amazing.
No,
Last
make
time I saw
something
you.
else up.
No, give me your favorite story. What's your favorite story you like to tell people?
Well, you already know that one. It's like
Well,
picking
go
your
ahead.
favorite child, but
Well, go ahead.
It came from a wordsmith, a philosopher, and a poet named Evander Holyfield, the boxing legend. And I said, how did you win so many heavyweight championships? And he said, that's easy. He said, I have a higher standard. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, in sports, I showed up early, I left late, I had a higher standard. I won more championships than anybody. I said, but didn't it hurt being in a fight? He says, yeah, it hurts, but when you're in a fight, you don't focus on the pain. You don't focus on the blows. As soon as you focus on the pain, you end up on your back knocked out. But that's what people do outside the ring. They focus on gas prices, war, economy, recession, and then they wonder why they never become a champion. And he pulled me in tight. An Adonis of a man missing half an ear bitten off by Mike Tyson. He says, you know what the funny thing is? He says, when you do win the championship, he says, everyone comes to their feet and they chant your name. They raise your hand in victory and the guy puts a big shiny belt around your waist. He said, at that moment and at that second, you don't feel even one of the punches you took along the journey. But the guy in the losing locker room will have every bruise, every excuse for the rest of their life, wishing they had a higher standard.
Higher standard also can equate to commitment, what commitment really means to something. Would you say that there's a synonymous relationship?
Yeah, it's dedication. It's interesting. People out there in the personal development industry, they'll sit there and say, you got to go find your passion. And I think that's just a bunch of BS. I really do.
Right.
Because, again, passion burns out. But like the guy who started Pictionary, good buddy of mine, Rob Angel. And he says, you can't be passionate about your business. You have to love your business.
Right.
And I go, what's the difference? He goes, passion will wear off. He goes, but if you're in love, you'll find a way to stick it through. And that stuck with me. Because why do 90% of businesses fail in the first year? Because they're passionate about it, but as soon as there's the challenge and trials and tribulations, they find a way to fold the tent and go somewhere else. But if you're in love with something, then you're going to see it through no matter what.
Tell me one of the stories I really love that you talk about is hand in the sand. Explain that story.
So a hand in the sand is when you're getting advice, you're getting counsel. And so it's interesting to me is that the guy who started string theory gave me a great lesson. He said, successful people seek counsel and failures listen to opinion. I said, what's the difference? He goes, opinions based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, or inexperience, like all your family friends who've never done what you want to do. Counsel's based on wisdom, knowledge, and mentorship. People have paved the way. If you go to family friends, say, I'm going to write a best-selling book, they're going to do everything possible to protect me, to talk me out of it, because they know I'm dyslexic and they've never written a best-selling book, right? But if I go to Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, sold 1 billion copies, he's going to say, Greg, sit down. Here's what you need to know, and give you counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. John Schwartz said, if we would spend our activity only seeking counsel and ignoring opinion, that's the day our lives would change. Hand in the sand goes hand in hand with this topic. You see, imagine if you grabbed a handful of sand. When people give you their input, usually it's just their opinion, but they're not doing it to mess you up. It's just from their point of view. All they know is all they know. So if they say, hey, here's how you run your business, if it works for you, keep it in your palm. If not, say, thank you very much, and let it slip through your fingers. And as you take your little grains and close your hands for what does work for you, that becomes your program, and your life will never be the same.
Right. Great advice. I love that story. Tell me about CPC, Clue Pattern Choice.
Well, Mark Anthony Bates and I
Okay.
I got it from him when I was doing the book called Wealth Made Easy. I interviewed people worth $100 million to $1 billion, and the greatest aha came from some regular guy that's not rolling in dough, but he's a philosopher in his own right. And he taught me this thing called CPC. It stands for Clues, Patterns, Choices, CPC. It's about accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens. It's our fault, but we blame other people. I'm a single guy. So let's say I go on a first date, amazing woman, and she happens to be 20 minutes late. Now, anything could have happened, but there's a little red flag. That's the first C. It's called a clue. I like this woman, so I continued to date her. And on the 5th, 8th, 100th date, every time she's 20 minutes late, that forms a P, which is a pattern. Now it's my C, my choice, whether I deal with it, I yell at her, I break up, I tell her a different time, but it's not her fault. She's just late. We have to stop trying to change people to fit into our own paradigm. But we'll see someone with a bad reputation in business. They cheat your best friend. We do business thinking it'll be different. When things go wrong, we're mad at the person. We saw the clue. We saw the pattern. We made the choice. It's like seeing a rattlesnake rattle, bite your kid's sister. You pet it, get bit, and you're mad at the snake. Looking back in life, rarely will we be angry at relationships that failed, negotiations that fell through, or mad at ourselves because we stayed in too late.
Really powerful. So a lot of your insights are built on building your personal brand. What are some of the key things you advise business leaders to improve their brand? And tell me about, like, what do you say to people who are struggling to find something that truly feels authentic to them with their personal brand?
Well, the wording that we just used was kind of counterintuitive, right?
Right.
Trying to be authentic.
Right.
Well, that means you're faking it, right? So
Right.
Authenticity means you're just being yourself. And that is the answer. So you know me now. You've met me. Am I the same on stage, off stage, hanging out? I'm the same, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what it is. It's just showing up who you are. Remember when we were kids, your mom would say, just be yourself. Everyone will like you.
Right.
There's truth to that statement.
Absolutely.
And what will happen is you will attract the people that understand you. I don't try to be all things to all people. Trust me, there's a lot of people out there that don't like my personality, or I'm turned off, or I'm too happy, or whatever it is. And that's fine. But the good people like yourself that I do attract, you're the person I'm looking for. Rumi, the philosopher, had a quote: whatever you seek is also seeking you in return. So I'm just seeking that counterpart so things can go onward and upward like never, ever before.
Well said. So your bio has an interesting line that I want to discuss deeper.
I have BO, you said? What?
No, your bio. Excuse the Chicago accent. So you've dedicated your life to helping others achieve the ultimate fulfillment of finding and living a life of purpose. What is your key mission in life, if you could share with everyone? And how did you know that was what you wanted to do?
It comes down to 3 words, probably. Own that shit. So many people don't own it. We all have greatness inside of us. Les Brown would always say that. You got greatness inside. There's, again, truth to that statement. But what happens is that we don't stand in our own greatness many times. It's like we have 10 things going on in our lives. 8 of them, awesome. 1 of them, one of them are horrible. What do we focus on? The horrible. We don't pat ourselves on the back enough to say, hey, good job paying that rent this month, Hey, good job keeping the lights on. And I think what we need to do is start giving ourselves more credit for the things that we're doing amazing, and stop beating ourselves for the one thing that might have a challenge or be even obsolete in just a few minutes from now. So I believe that if people could stand into what they're doing well and work their strengths, hire their weaknesses, that's where the miracle happens.
So it's celebrating your wins.
It's celebrating the wins.
Basis.
Every time I do a good thing, I go do something good for myself. Period. I go get a massage. I'll go buy a tie. Something. It doesn't make a difference what it is. Even though I don't need a new tie, I will go do that because I want to celebrate and congratulate that success. Because if we don't, what we do is we just look for the more factor. Well, I need more, and there's never an end to the more. But by celebrating that victory, you give yourself an accomplishment, and then you go to see what's next.
I do that for every property we acquire. I buy a piece of clothing from the city we're acquiring it. It's always at a boutique place. It has a common theme. It's really interesting.
That is very interesting. You're the only second person I've ever heard say that.
That's all I do. So if we buy something in Columbia, South Carolina, I'll be at a boutique store with a local guy that has great brands, and you walk in and they fit you, and whether it's a tie or a sport jacket or a sweater or something, there's always something that way. When I look in my closet, I could see all the different deals that we've done.
That's amazing.
It's pretty wild.
That is amazing. And I see you're not wearing a watch.
I am not a watch guy. I don't wear any jewelry.
Me either. And I'm realizing that more and more modern generational leaders are wearing that stuff less and less. So I think back in the day, we'd wear the gold chains and the watches to kind of show, flaunt our success. And then once you start getting it, you need less and less of doing that. And just, again, show up as your authentic self, right?
It started where, like, I had bad arthritis and I realized I had celiac and I had to go gluten-free and lower inflammation. Once I started lowering inflammation, my hands got better. So when I was at the office, I was typing, I would be hurting all day. And I said to myself, what's the common element? And one doctor says, get rid of your jewelry. It'll help. Along with the celiac, you'll see a difference. So ever since I stopped wearing a watch, I don't wear any jewelries, no chains. Maybe something on the neck I would do, but that's,
now you just wear the muscle shirts, and
now I'm just a rock star wearing John Varvatos.
Yeah, and showing off all that hair. Anyway,
next question. So you're involved in a lot of things: events, books, mentorship, movies, etc. What part of your day do you enjoy the most now that you're you're about to turn 60 in August? When you wake up in the morning, what are you most excited to do these days?
I have a theory about gratitude. I learned it from a guy named Dave Meltzer. And so the last thing I say before I go to sleep is thank you. And the first thing I do when I wake up, I say thank you, because I figure I was blessed for another day. And I love the mornings as the ultimate. So when I wake up, I get my coffee, I relax, I turn on the music. I just like that time of the day because it resets. And I don't have a normal schedule. So I know you have yours back to back to back. I've got a Tia, who runs my life and my calendar. So I don't even know what's on. I never check it the day before. So I wake up and boom, it's almost like Christmas. When there's nothing on there, I'm like, woohoo, I'm going to the beach today, right? And other times when I go, oh, great, I'm going to make some money today. So I kind of treat each day as a gift. I know it sounds weird because everyone's overly anal for their time, but I'm not.
So basically, you don't check your schedule till the day of?
Till the morning of.
The morning of.
Morning of.
And so are you waking up at a certain point because you might have a meeting or something? No.
One of the rules is no meetings before 9 o'clock. So I know I'll wake up at 6, 7 o'clock, so I will always have a couple hours before I do it.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you were recognized by President Bill Clinton for your charity work a while back. You've also been closely involved in Make-A-Wish. And in your events, you do charitable things as well. Share more about what causes are near and dear to you, and how did you get involved in supporting them?
Those are in 4 different areas. It's very interesting, the category. So here's one of the topics. So at every one of our events, especially at the Secret Knocks, we raise a lot of money for different causes, and we don't talk about it. And so this has been a conversation that's been coming up lately. So you and I can have this conversation. So one side of it is you do it from a charitable standpoint. It's from giving. So you don't tell people, you just do it.
Right.
The other is, no, you bring awareness so other people are aware of it. So therefore you should tell people about it. Where's your stance?
I agree with that.
Which one?
Well, I like the Secret Knocks, what you do, and talk about what you do at Secret Knocks. So I think it's great. Like even at Prosperity Camp, you had the duffels and that you can contribute to it. You can bring it and help someone in need.
Yeah, but have you ever seen anything about it? Internet talk? Nothing.
No.
Because we don't tell people.
Right.
But now people are saying, shame on you. You should be telling people so they could do it too. I see both sides of it, right? So that's kind of like, what side do you stand on? This next one, I will tell you, it's not a charity, but it's a great cause that we're doing. And I never tell people who's coming or whatever. But this, I will let the cat out of the bag on this one. There's this kid on Instagram, and you've seen him a million times. He's a young guy. His name's Zachary. And what he does is he goes up to homeless people, unassuming people, and say, oh, man, I don't got money for the bus. I need just $2 or I need 50 cents. Can you help me? And the people that will reach in their pocket and do it, he stops and gives them their money back and says, now I'm going to bless you with $500 or $1,000 or get you a hotel room or change your life or whatever. And I love this guy. So he's coming in, and he is going to be our charitable thing, because what we want to do is raise as much money as possible to give to him so he can go on for a whole nother year and bless people around the world.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Let's talk about this Life Ship, because it's something new. It's unique. You just rolled it out. Explain what it is. I'm going to be part of it. I'm really excited about it. roll everyone through, like, what is it and what's its purpose?
Well, it's happening in real time, right?
Right.
I mean, you know literally as much as I do.
Right.
So I met this gentleman named Ben, amazing guy. And he's a space engineer. He's been part of a lot of satellites that are out there. He also created the camera that we see from space looking at Earth with the little P logo. And he's just been part of this. And he realized that they're sending things to the moon, the lunar landers moving up and the Falcon 9 launches and things of this nature. And also only 12 people have ever walked the moon. There's only so much DNA evidence that we've ever even existed, right? And so he had this idea and he says, hey, what if we could find people's legacy? Because again, look, you don't even know your great-great-grandfather's name. And we're made up of their genes and their bloodline, right? We're easily forgotten. So the concept is, what if we could have you tell your story of what your legacy piece for 1,000,000 years from now is? And also you could swab the inside of your cheek and take your DNA along with other people. It's kind of like all the different seeds of the world. And then on the actual lunar lander that goes next year, all that information will be stored there permanently forever. So your kids, your great-grandkids could always look up the moon and say, my family history, their legacy truly lives on. That's what we're doing right now. It is pretty unique and phenomenal, to say the least.
Explain the book, like how's that going to work, and how it becomes on the moon.
So here's the idea. So it's a parable. The story will be about this guy's journey, because it's a fake story, a parable. But what will happen is he'll meet people like you, and what we're going to do is sit down and interview you, and you're going to say, for example, I'm going to make this up. You say, well, my legacy piece is my grandpa taught me a lesson. If you have to wonder if something's right or wrong, chances are it's wrong. And what happens is one day you're going to the elevator and you hear steps coming and the elevator doors are closing and you put your hand in and you stop it. And the guy gets in and goes, oh my gosh, why did you do that? And says, well, I heard you running and my grandpa taught me if it's right or wrong, it's wrong. And then Ben, this character, as he goes along the journey later on, he'll be faced with a decision, not know what to do, and goes, well, what would Ben do? And he sits there and says, well, I remember, if it's right or wrong, the chances are it's wrong. So we tie it into the storyline. And when it's done, we're going to make it into a best-selling book here on Earth. Obviously, it would be sold on Amazon and all over the different places. But what gets sexy is a copy of that PDF book will also be on this disc that lands on the moon. So our best-selling book will be literally living on forever.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Pretty incredible, huh?
Absolutely. So you're a single dad. Okay.
Single dad.
And it's amazing you're accomplishing everything you can in your professional life, the successes you've had, and raising kids by yourself. How are you able to find enough time in the day to do all this? Like,
well,
how do you do
just
it?
going to the weirdest answer. I got the greatest ex-wife in the world. She's just absolutely amazing. I just truly have got the greatest ex-wife. In fact, on Thanksgiving, it was my former wife, her boyfriend, his kids, her family, and me. I mean, so we're really tight. So we co-parent very, very well. In fact, she'll be running Secret Knock Women in June, the event that we're going to be doing coming up. And so we understand how to help one another. So during the week, he lives with her and goes to a private yuppie school. And then the weekends, I pick him up and I'm the Disneyland dad. So it's pretty easy. My job is just to have fun and go motorcycle racing. But I learned a very valuable tool. You know, I'm not one of these Bible thumping guys when it comes to how you raise your kids, but I'll share a lesson that I learned that changed my life and my son. I was doing a podcast and this woman asked me a question. It was very logical. She goes, do you give your son money to do things he doesn't like to do around the house, like make the bed, mow the lawn, things? I go, absolutely. I go, I'm going to teach my son the power of money. She goes, stop. I go, what? She goes, too bad. I expected more from you. I said, what? And she goes, you're ruining your child forever. I said, teach me. And she goes, think about it. You're training your kid from the earliest of memory. The only way to make money is to do something he hates.
Right.
And so I said, thank you. Hand in the sand. I grabbed that one, right? I sat my kid down and said, Colt, from now on, listen. I go, you make these really cool videos and stuff like that. You know, all the TikToks. You're going to be my new videographer. And what I'm going to do is pay your allowance and all the money that you want for your Fortnite stuff from doing what you thrive at. And by the way, how about you make the bed and you take out the trash once in a while for living in this estate? We'll call it contribution. It changed the paradigm. So now when he comes to me and says, hey, Dad, I want to go buy this. He says, how many TikTok videos I got to do for you to make this thing happen? But now he's doing something that he just thrives at, not something he despises or he doesn't like.
Right. So you're rewarding him for the things that he cares about, that
Correct.
he gravitates
Work
to.
your strengths and hide your weaknesses. Look,
right.
again, I can't write a book. I'm going to tell you flat out, it'd be a brutal process. So I got amazing ghostwriters and editors. I'm pretty good at speaking. So what happens is I sit down with my ghostwriter and I say, a boy wants a bike. He gets off his butt. He takes his dad's lawnmower, mows lawns, makes money, buys a bike. It comes back. It was a glorious Sunday afternoon when a young bright-eyed lad caught the entrepreneurial spirit, and they crafted it. I worked my strengths and I hired my weaknesses.
Oh, that's fantastic. So the name of the show is I Own It, being responsible for
And I said, own it.
And you happen to say it in the show, right on cue. So it's about being responsible for everything in your life. Was there ever a time in your life you can look back and say, man, I just didn't own this. I was struggling.
I struggle a lot, but I actually have conviction in everything I do. I learned a very valuable lesson in my 20s. I only say yes to something I'm going to finish. So I used to be a people pleaser, and I would just say yes to everything and fail, and then people would be disappointed and let down. So now I'm very careful of what I say yes to. So I find a way. So for example, you mentioned I do movies. At Secret Knock years ago, Frank Shankowitz came, and he's the founder of a nonprofit called Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I asked him a question. I go, Frank, what was your wish? He goes, what do you mean? I go, you're founder of Make-A-Wish. What'd you ask for? He goes, no one asked me. I said, well, I'm going to be the guy to grant your wish. You want a Lamborghini? I know a guy. He says, no. I goes, I just want my story to be told so my grandkids will know I did something. So he signed over his life rights. And I said, Frank, I'm going to make this into a major feature film. Just know I've never made a feature film. And it took me 6 years of trials and tribulations till I finally figured it out. And when it came out in 2019, we're on the short list for the Oscars, and we're streamed for a year and a half on Netflix, and now we're streaming worldwide. But the moral is that I didn't know how to do that. I found a way because I started seeking counsel and not people's opinion. I didn't ask my Uncle Louie. I started looking up people that won Oscars and said, I need 12.5 minutes of your time.
Right.
I'm working on a movie about the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I just asked you a simple question. And by sitting down with these people, they finally taught me the code. And here's the code. You want to hear the code to Hollywood?
Absolutely.
The code to Hollywood is so simple that it's going to make your brains hurt. If you go up and someone right away says yes, that's a no. A no is a no. A maybe is all you're looking for. That's Hollywood. And I was going up there all the time and saying, I'm making this movie. And people go, yeah, sounds great. We're going to make you a star. We're going to get you $12 million. Here's what we're going to do. They were just telling me no. This is where I come from. A yes is a yes.
Right.
When someone says no, I understood that. But the people go, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I like the basics of it. Here's what we need you to do. We're going to have a meeting with our studio. What we'd like you to do is come in and present this. That's all you're looking for. But I wasted 5 years listening to all these fake yeses because they told me yes right away.
So we're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. Are you ready?
I'm go,
Okay.
Go, baby.
All right, here we go.
Are you ready to be amazed?
I'm always amazed. So in the studio, we normally have a couch. I would say, Greg, lay down. You're about to turn 60 soon, and you can go back to when you're 16 years old. Knowing everything you know now, the experiences, the relationships, the amount of people you've helped. If you went back to talk to yourself, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Surround yourself with people you have respect for and not people you have influence over. Surround yourself with people that are doing and accomplishing. Ask them and duplicate it for yourself. For example, if I was going to become a new sales representative at your industry, I would come in and say, Ben, who's the guy ringing the bell all the time getting the sale? Would you please put me next to his desk? I don't want to be in the brand new wannabe section. I want to be next to that person. Surround yourself with people we have respect for, not people we have influence over.
And isn't that also part of the lesson, too? I know you've spoken about before, is be around action takers, not around talkers.
Yeah.
People that take action, actually been there, done that, will do it.
Correct. Surround yourself with people that are accomplishing what you want. Look, again, if I was a new artist, I wouldn't hang out with other starving artists. I'd go sit in front of an art gallery and I'd see whose, paintings they're pulling off the wall. And I'd reach out to that person and say, how'd you do it? Because again, I just want to surround myself with people who are doing what I want to do for myself.
All right. It's our last day on earth, God forbid, you and I. It's our last meal together. What are we eating and what are we drinking? It's your choice.
It's interesting. So as you know, I'm 35 years sober, and I still would not drink.
Right.
So that's I've tempted that one before, and the answer was no. But what I think I'm going to be eating is a special place called Crab Hut. It's down in San Diego. It's an Asian market that's insanely good. It's like my favorite meal in the world. So I'd be indulging in a crab feast for sure.
Okay. Sounds good. And what are we washing it down with? Pellegrino, water?
Yeah, I'm a Perrier guy with a bunch of lime. In fact, I was
Okay.
born in the mean streets of a place called Del Mar, California, a little beach town.
Yeah, that's a rough area.
West
I
Coast. Yeah, well, it was rough growing up. One time in surf class, we had low tide. It was hard, and yeah, it was so really rough. I was in a street gang. At night, we'd break into BMWs and detail them. We were very rough, and sometimes we'd have like Perrier chug-a-lug contests with no lime. I mean,
That was tough.
when we were broke, we did Calistoga. We were ruffians. You have to understand.
So being in our studio, you'll see we have a grand piano, we have a drum set, and we have guitars behind me. If we could bring in any musician or
Billy
artist,
Joel.
okay,
And we'd sit down and he'd sing Vienna, one of the most underrated songs of all time. And it would be one of the greatest experiences of my life. That's the only person that I've not met that I've been holding off because that is my ultimate bucket list. But I've met every other person I've ever wanted to.
Perfect. What's the best way to stay engaged with you and follow you and learn more about you? What's the best way for our audience to really understand?
Instagram. You go there because it goes right to me. There's no filter. And here's the whole thing is if you reach out to me in DM, I just don't like to talk about the weather, what your kids ate for dinner. But if you sit there and say, hey, what's a good business book? What's a good contact for me? I get back to 100% of all those people. So go to Greg S. Reid on Instagram, reach out, and I promise I will actually reach out, and it's me.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming up from beautiful Carlsbad. We appreciate it. If you are interested in following the Ben Reinberg I Own It show, click that like button, click the lower hand button, subscribe. The more likes you give us, the more content and the better guests you'll see on our show as well. If you want to follow our company, feel free to go to alliancecgc.com. That's alliancecgc.com for all your information on your commercial real estate needs. Learn how to invest in our brand new fund, the Alliance Medical Property Fund as well. If you're interested in following me, go to benreinberg.com. Feel free to follow us on all the social media platforms, and this podcast is on all the platforms as well. Greg Reid, thank you for coming up today. It was so good to see you, and look forward to seeing you at Secret Knocks in literally a couple months.
Where's Billy Joel? I've been waiting for him to pop out here.
That's
Slow
the next,
down,
that's the next
you crazy
episode.
Child. Come on, let's go. Thanks for
That's
having
the
me on,
next
brother.
episode. Absolutely. All right, thanks.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.